for our 2025 Champions of Life Award. There's a lot of people in this room we could point to, and we will embarrass you at some point in the future. But for today, there's one church in River Falls that's been an unsung hero to this banquet over the past several years. We've got some really nice staging today. It's easy to manage. We've got lights nowhere near as complex as the pipe and drape we've had in many recent years. In case you've noticed the composition of the board, there might be a few bad backs. There might be not the most qualified set of individuals to be doing the heavy lifting. But the men of Luther Memorial have provided legwork and brawn and dedication and will to be here for many, many banquets in recent history. And they've done it at the drop of a hat. I know it's shocking. Sometimes we're not entirely organized. But when Tony or John Danaker have made a call, they have turned out, and they have put up and taken down whatever we've needed for staging, and they have done it often quietly, not even allowing us to recognize them, not even staying for a meal. So we're going to present this to Luther Memorial in a minute, but just a minute, I want to give a brief word about Luther Memorial. For those not aware, they are a LCMS church. They're on the corner of 4th and Cascade in River Falls. And for those who know, they have some very special ministry work that they do in this community. One of the guiding values and beliefs of Luther Memorial is love without truth is lacking in character. Truth without love is lacking in decency. Every woman who walks into our clinic needs to experience that. And our volunteers and our staff make sure that they do. And we so appreciate that mission of Luther Memorial, how they embody Christ every day, and how they live it out in serving us here. So at this time, I'd invite Pastor Chad Alfie to come up to the stage and accept the 2025 Champions of Life Award for Luther Memorial. Chad.
Good evening. My name is John Danaker. I am the Executive Director of Options for Women. Normally, the Executive Director would stand up here this evening and provide you, our supporters, with a history of last year's successes, of what we had, and the experiences that we've enjoyed. But to me, that's just history. What I want to talk about is our goal for moving forward. I want to provide you with information and an outline of where we are going and how we will provide a foundation for saving more lives of the unborn and strengthening the women and men that come to us for help and services. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court in June of 2022, and the introduction of mifepristone, RU-486, the abortion pill, or chemical abortion, or whatever name the pro-choice crowd chooses to use to camouflage the name, the results has not changed the process. It's still abortion. The abortion pill is marketed as easy, convenient, cheap, and easy to hide. Today, approximately 70% of all U.S. abortions are facilitated by the abortion pill. According to the manufacturer, more than 5 million women have used the abortion pill since September of 2000. Without getting into graphic description of the total process, just understand the cramping, the pain, the anxiety, and the abortion of the baby is done in the privacy and loneliness of the home or the bathroom, without medical assistance, and in many cases, without any assistance at all. When the FDA approved the abortion pill, it was based on 10 clinical studies with under 31,000 young, healthy participants, with less than 0.5% experiencing any adverse effects. Originally, the FDA required that misoprostol would be prescribed by a physician with 3 in-office visits. Today, you can get misoprostol via the mail or telemedicine. A new clinical study was just completed, and both completed consisted of 865,000 participants from 2017 to 2023, with over 10% experiencing adverse effects from sepsis, infections, hemorrhaging, and other serious adverse effects within 45 days. Planned Parenthood states that once a woman takes the abortion pill, there is no going back. This is false. We have a plan. Our goal at Options for Women in River Falls is to offer an alternative to this process. The alternative is called the abortion pill reversal. If a woman takes the abortion pill and changes her mind within 72 hours of taking the pill, she can reverse the effects of the pill with the assistance of a doctor through the reversal process. The process has been successful in 70% of the time. That's 70% more children alive. I started this presentation by telling you I was not going to talk about history, but about the future. Options for Women River Falls will begin training 4 of its staff to perform the abortion pill reversal program and process. Our goal is to walk and support the women that come to us for help in saving their child after taking the abortion pill. Not only will we walk and support the woman, but we will educate our communities about the abortion pill, the effects, and the alternative. The abortion pill reversal coincides with our mission to save lives. When the abortion pill process begins with the doctor's care and Options for Women participation, the woman needs to have an ultrasound every week or 2 for 12 weeks to confirm viability. Our cost for an ultrasound is $150. So we're going to be spending $900 to $1,800 today to do this process. Imagine giving $900 or $1,800, and then in 18 years watching somebody walk down the aisle at graduation. We don't care what the enemy does, and yes, it is the enemy. We are moving forward. We will provide help, hope, and support. We will also be trained on post-abortion healing for both men and women. And yes, we will provide it for men, because according to statistics, 1 in 5 men have urged, encouraged, and supported a woman to have an abortion. They too need healing. So you can see that we have a plan to adjust to the changing environment in the arena that we have chosen to operate in, and that is to save the lives of the unborn. And because of your help and your support, we will succeed. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm Kelsey Ekstrom, and this is Dakota.
My name is Kylie, and I am 26.
My name is Alyssa, and this is my daughter, Layla.
Hola, mi nombre es Susana. Él es mi hijo, se llama Steven.
My name is Kayla. This is Armando.
I'm Lily, and this is my daughter, Amelia. She's 9.5 months old.
Well, my name is Lindsay, and this is my daughter, Lily.
People call me Lexi.
For 40 years, Options for Women has been a beacon of hope in River Falls, saving lives and transforming families one heartbeat at a time. An unplanned pregnancy can leave a woman feeling isolated, overwhelmed by fear, judgment, and financial strain. In 1982, 3 compassionate women recognized this need and placed a small ad in the college newspaper offering phone support from their homes for women facing unexpected pregnancies. From those humble beginnings, we've grown into a pregnancy resource clinic, serving over 10,000 clients with hundreds of pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, and more than 1,000 STI tests. Thanks to your generous support, we can provide essentials like diapers and clothes, alongside faith-driven emotional care, turning moments of crisis into opportunities for love and purpose. Though we've come a long way from those early phone calls, our heart and mission remains the same: to change lives and serve the most vulnerable in our community, one life at a time.
We have a couple of testimonials for you. Kayla, Connie, would you come up to the stage, please? I can't see. Where's Connie?
Hi, my name is Colleen Deary, and I am a client advocate, and I'm also going to be on the board at Options. And this young woman standing on my right, if you've ever had a baby bottle fundraiser at your church, I often do the baby bottle fundraisers, and I have spoken about Kayla because Kayla is one of my heroes. I got to know Kayla right when I came on staff at Options, and I immediately was taken by how brave she was. Now, I know she won't think she's brave, but I think she's brave. And not only that, but as I said, she has done so many amazing things with her life in the 3 years that I've known her, that she's not just a client to me anymore. She's a dear, dear friend now. And I have come to love this woman and respect this woman and can't wait to see what God has in store for her. You got this.
Hi, my name is Kayla. You might remember me from the video I did 2 years ago. Just to remind you, I was at rock bottom. I came to Options with no support system. A person whose name I can't remember told me to call Options. I did, and they got right to it. They wanted to know all my needs. They began to direct me with all types of resources. Even though I was homeless at the time, they made sure our appointments happened through Zoom. I felt loved, accepted, and never judged. I did Earn While You Learn classes that allowed me to earn supplies for my baby and learn how to be a better parent. The ladies at Options have prayed with me and walked with me through all my ups and downs. I know that I am where I am today because of the unconditional love of Options. I can't wait until I can pay it back in the future. You know that the person who told me about Options, maybe I can't remember their name because she was an angel from God. Thank you.
Colleen.
Okay, I'm not a speaker in front of this many people, so bear with me. John is one that talked me into it, so if I screw up, blame him. Okay, I am a grandma of an Options for Women baby. I've been against abortion for a long time, for as long as I can remember. I was forced with my beliefs in 1998 when I found out my biological father wanted my 21-year-old mom to give herself an abortion. Granted, at that time it was illegal. I thank God and my mom for removing herself from that relationship and moved on without him. I was born a few months later in 1961. My daughter was totally against my views about abortion. I kept on trying to explain myself to her, but with peer pressure and being indoctrinated in school, her stance was my body, my choice. Then she took me by surprise in September 2020 when she came to me and said, "I hope you aren't disappointed in me, but I'm pregnant." I told her the only way that she could have disappointed me was if she had taken my grandbaby away. She said she had reached out for Options for Women, yet had found out she was 12 weeks pregnant. When she had her first ultrasound, she saw her baby moving around. She was amazed that her baby had already had arms and legs. I said, "Because it's a baby." She said she had been lied to for so many years. Options for Women helped her to see that it wasn't just a clump of cells, but a beautiful, living human being. Options was so supportive during and after her pregnancy. They had offered her different programs that she could earn free items. That's what it is. Their support gave her the courage to move forward with the pregnancy and keep her baby. My granddaughter is now 4. I think they're supposed to have a picture of her somewhere. Out there, Okay. Anyways, that's okay. Anyway, she's 4 years old, and she's a happy little girl. Options came to our church recently with the speaker that talked. I could tell she was saddened by some of the babies that had been lost along the way. I stopped and chatted with her after church. I needed her to see my granddaughter. Her name is Miss Evelyn, who's my granddaughter. And that she was a prime example of all the hard work that they do each and every day to save babies. My plan after retirement is to volunteer for Options for Women. I was here in 2016 for the opening house of when Scott Walker spoke. Little did I know then that this would be the place that would change our lives forever. I want to personally thank Options for Women for giving me my 15th grandbaby. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our keynote tonight. It's a personal honor to introduce him, Kirk Walden. He's a former PRC director and author of the book, The Wall, as well as co-author, along with his wife Jennifer, of an upcoming book, Saving Samaria. Kirk is he's a humorist whose perspectives on faith and life can be found at kirkwalden.com. In his spare time, he helps people like us, pregnancy help ministries, with his encouragement, his perspective, future of the ministry, and how others like us are quietly creating a new culture of life in America, which we deeply need. Kirk comes to us from Nashville, Tennessee, where he and his wife Jennifer have 5 children. Please welcome Kirk. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That helps. Can anybody hear me? All right. Well, it's great to be here tonight as we celebrate 40 years. And I just think about Jan, Ann, and Martha, and a phone line and an ad in the student newspaper. That's where we started. And here we are talking about abortion pill reversal tonight with John. And we've had several people up here cry already tonight. This is not good because I'm already emotionally incontinent. I'm going to go down a little bit too. But it's a great night because we get to celebrate. And I love what John did because he said, but we're going to look to the future too. And what we're doing, it's not just saying God has done great things. It's about to be even better. Yeah, amen. Who said better? I'm with you. I'm with you. This is exciting. It's an honor to be here. I'm going to tell you. And I think 40 years ago, we were all in different places. Some of us, Students for Life, weren't here yet. And you were just a gleam in somebody's eye. And some of us, like me, I had just finished college and I was getting ready to, my goal had been to be a professional golfer. And so I was about to go to the PGA Tour qualifying school. That was what I was doing in 1984, 85, right in that area. And I think, man, things have changed. But even back then, I think about it, and God had placed on my heart 4 years earlier before I started school, just as I was starting school, the desire to see a culture of life take hold in this country so strong that the last place that ends pregnancies would shutter its doors. And I said, God, I want you to put me on the front lines. That's where I want to be. And wherever that is, and I thought my platform would be golf. It turns out I'm not that good at golf. And so I was good enough to play college golf, but when it came to playing with the big boys, I was no Tiger Woods or Scotty Scheffler or anything like that. And so I got involved in this ministry at the age of 28. And Connie, I hear you. Where's Connie? I saw you go down, but come down, but you're somewhere in here and I can't see her. There you are, right there. You know what? When I first interviewed for the job as executive director of our ministry, Connie, I told the board 2 things. I said, 1, I'm not good at raising funds, and here we are at a fundraising dinner tonight. And number 2, I am not a public speaker. I can't stand getting up there. It makes me nervous. I can't do it. You did a great job, and so you got a fellow warrior up here tonight. And I don't know if you're going to get any great words. I'm from the South. We speak very slowly. And in fact, when we say 4-letter words, it takes 3 syllables to get them out. But I will tell you this. You're not going to find somebody who cares more about what we're doing tonight than I do. I know that all of us are on an equal playing field here, but it matters to me what happens at Options. I've been here before, and I'm friends with John, Tony, and the group. And in fact, Tony and I have had lunch back in Nashville when he was down there for the NRB convention, National Religious Broadcasters. And so we're buds. But I get to talk tonight for a few minutes, and Tony doesn't, which is really going to be fun. But well, I can't sing, Tony. I told Tony after the national anthem, I said, man, that's the first time I've even come close to being on key, because he was kind of in my key. And I was like, this is great. Let's keep going. But it's a joy to be here tonight, because you know what we do at Options? I say we, I feel like I'm part of the fam. We step into the stories of those who are facing a very challenging time. That's what we simply do. And that's all of us in this room. We're stepping into her story. And I don't know who the next her or him is that's coming in the door, but that's what we do. We step into the story where things are going tough. And Kayla, thanks for having the courage to tell your story tonight, because we've all got stories in this room. You're not alone, but I'll bet you every one of us can tell of a time when we were about to hit the bottom, when we were struggling, when we were hurting, and it can be different things. I know for me, I'll tell a little bit about my story tonight, but we step into her story. And as we do, things begin to change. And Chuck mentioned that Jen and I, my wife, she's not with me tonight. She's back in Nashville. We've got a couple of teenagers, more on that in a little bit, but she's in Nashville, and they're under severe thunderstorm warning and all that stuff, always when Dad's out of town, right? I get out of here, everything's great, and they're under tornado watches and all that. But she's there, I'm here, and we're writing a book together called Saving Samaria, and it all started when I got obsessed with this story of the Samaritan woman. And I'm not going to walk you through the book tonight, but I think it's fascinating that Jesus goes into Samaria where no Jew would ever trod, because he wanted to win them back. They were a tribe of Israel that had kind of gone off on their own, right? And Jews and Samaritans didn't talk to each other. But Jesus crossed that border. And when he crossed that border, he sat at a well, Jacob's well, and he waited. And that young lady came, and she had a checkered past and a messy present, was going through a tough time. But what did Jesus do when he sat down at that well? He stepped into her story. And as he did, everything began to change. Because there was this lost tribe of Israel we were talking about last night at dinner, leaving the 99 and finding the one. How is Jesus going to start a church if there's a tribe of Israelites who are gone and not coming back? You can't talk about leaving the 99 if you don't do it yourself. And Jesus had to win back the Samaritans. And he started with this woman at a well. And you know the story. We've heard dozens of sermons on it. And so I'm not going to go through that. But I think what's interesting about this story is that we get to the end. He talks to her and she says she has no husband. He says, you've had 5 husbands and the one you're with now is not your husband. And I don't know why she had gone through 5 divorces. Chances are that they sent her away because she couldn't have children. That's probably what happened. But here she was living with a guy because it's the only thing she could do to keep a roof over her head. She was coping with the situation she was in. And she tells Jesus, I have no husband. And he tells her about the 5 husbands. And I do. There is one funny line in here. It's a serious story, but I love the funny line when he says, you've had 5 husbands, and the one you're with now is not your husband. She says, sir, I perceive you're a prophet. And I'm like, yeah, kinda. You might say that. But as they go along, this woman who was at the bottom, she had been kicked to the curb by her own people. She went to that well alone, and here she was, marginalized and outcast, could not get anybody to go to that well with her. She probably didn't lead the ladies' Torah study on Saturday mornings or anything like that. Wasn't even invited to the synagogue for that matter. And yet she still had a hope. And she says to Jesus, I know that the Messiah is coming. And I think, man, she still believed there was something out here, holding on to something. She says, I know that the Messiah is coming. And when he comes, he'll declare all things to us. She thought that maybe, just maybe, the Messiah would come for her. Maybe her too. Maybe she would be back with the people again. Maybe she would be somebody again when the Messiah came. She had a hope. And Jesus looks at her. And for the first time in human history, before he told Peter, John, James, all those guys, he tells her, I who speak to you am he. She got to hear the news first. I know his disciples were figuring it out, but it was the first time he said it plainly. And we know the story. She drops her water pot. She goes back to her village. And she says, come see this man who told me everything that I've done. This is not the Messiah, is it? And many followed. And John points out later in that, not only does Jesus stay 2 more days, and many, many more follow. In fact, some say the whole village of Sychar began to follow Jesus. A revival, an awakening breaks out in Sychar. Because, and John says why? Because this woman said, he told me all the things that I've done. She was willing to be vulnerable with them. And because of her vulnerability, her willingness to drop the mask, all these people follow. And it all started because Jesus stepped into her story. And I think, what about us? We reach out at options. We reach out to folks who are in that struggling place. And they may be the next person who says, he told me all the things that I've done. And out of that moment at options, who knows what might happen. We want to see this end, this tragedy in this country end. We want to see it end. I think it's going to come through the people who come into options. I'd like to say it's because of me. I'm going to go speak. I'm going to say great things. I know all the facts. I know when a baby's heart begins beating. I know when brain waves begin functioning. I could have a debate with anybody. In fact, I wasn't going to tell this, but I'm going to tell it now because I'm forgetting about the notes. I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and a couple of guys were sitting at a table not far from me. In fact, it was a bar. It was the only place open to eat, and so I ate a cheeseburger and a Coke at a bar, and these 2 guys next to me had been drinking a lot, and they were having a big time, and I reached out to them and met them, and I asked what they did, and they asked what I did, and I said I worked with Pregnancy Help Ministries, which was an odd place to be at that moment with these guys, and they said, you are not going to like us. And I said, I like you just fine. And if they got violent, I better like them. So they seem nice enough, but they say, you're not going to like us. And I said, why not? And he said, our grandmother is Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. And I said, you know what? I like you just fine. I said, I'm going to be speaking Monday night. Why don't you come on in? You take one side of the stage, I'll take the other, and we'll see how it goes. They did not take me up on the offer, but we had quite a conversation that night. I don't know why I got down, but I could win that debate with them if I wanted to. I know where I'm going now. I could win that debate, but it's not going to be. I think we need to win debates sometimes. I think we need to speak truth. But when we win, it's going to be because we step into the stories of those who are hurting. We step into their stories because compassion is the way, and that's what we do. Every day at Options, we step into stories. And I said to everybody in this room, if I gave you the mic, you could talk about a time when somebody stepped into your story. I had that happen to me. I'd been a director of the center in Auburn, Alabama, home of the Auburn Tigers, War Eagle. And that's our battle cry at Auburn. That usually kills in the SEC, but up here in Big Ten country, it's like, what are you talking about? So I will scratch that for the next time I go speak in Big Ten country. But I was a director. We began offering ultrasound in '96. It was wonderful. We were seeing women. We had 22,000 students at that time on Auburn's campus. They'd come off, see their child on ultrasound, and they'd change their minds and choose life. It was an amazing time. I was on top of the world because we were one of the first centers, one of the first 15 or 20 in America to offer ultrasound. I was like, we're doing this. I'm excited. God, I'm in the zone. Everything's great. My wife went across the country to work on some personal things, and she called me and she says, I'm not going to come home. I'm not going to be a mom anymore. Sometimes we all hit bottom. I had 3 children, ages 7, 5, and 3, and just like that, I became a single dad. And it was me and 3, and I was broken, and I was hurting. And so when somebody comes in the door at Options or another pregnancy center, I know a little bit about what it's like when a relationship breaks in front of you and you're hurting and alone. But you know what happens when when fellow believers surround you and say, we're going to pick you up? Miracles happen. That's what happens. And that's what happened in my life. It was the guys I'd known for years. They'd take me out to lunch, and they would just allow me to vent. And I'm going to tell you, when you got a daughter who's 5 years old, and she's got long blonde hair that goes down to her waist, and you got to put a gallon of that detangler junk in her hair just to get her ready for kindergarten, you have got to vent to somebody. And they allowed me to do that, these guys. And I'm going to tell you something. It's the same thing we do at Options. Some people need to come in and tell their stories. And they're rough stories sometimes. They're messy stories. And we listen. That's what we do. And if you want to know how we're going to win back this culture, sometimes it's by listening. It's what we do every day when we open those doors for the last 40 years. Then there's the ladies in my church. They called me up. They said, Kirk, we realize you're not a great cook. I said, well, you know what? I just hadn't tried it. I could be fantastic at this. But they said, you have those children home every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night at 6 o'clock. We will put dinner on your table. They did that for months till I could get on my feet and do it myself. That's what we do. And when young ladies come into Option, young men, they need somebody to take them by the hand. We'll walk with you through this. You're not going to be alone. That's how lives are saved. That's how not only the child's life, but the mom's life and the dad's life. It's what we do. Then there's my Sunday school class. Of all things, back in that day, I was teaching a Sunday school class, and a married adult class of all things. And I went to my class. I said, I don't need to be teaching anybody. I'm just going to sit in the back, and maybe I can learn something, because I haven't learned it yet. And that's the right thing to do. But then my class came to me, and they said, Kirk, we realize you're all messed up. And I said, well, thank you for the encouragement. But they said, we want to see how a messed up person takes us through Galatians and Ephesians. You just keep doing your thing there. And I'm going to tell you something. I think the Lord knew that Bible was in danger of going on the shelf during those days. But I had to be in it every week because they were waiting on something on Sunday. I don't know if they got any good lessons or not, but I do know this. Just like at Options, they took a broken man and told him he still had value. Broken women come in the door, broken men come in the door, and they need to know, I still matter, don't I? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Like Jesus told the Samaritan woman without even saying it, you're going to be my ambassador to the Samaritan people, and you're going to change the world. And guess what? Some guy named John is going to write an entire biography of my life, and you're going to be one of the stars. No. Yep. I don't know if Jesus talked like that and said, yep, but if he did, that's what it would have sounded like if he was from southern Galilee. So, but that's what they did for me. And over time, we didn't just survive, we began to thrive. I began speaking at events like this over those 8-9 years as a single dad. And in 2005, I ended up going up to Nashville. I was still living in Alabama. I went up to Nashville to meet with some folks who were helping arrange logistics for me to speak at events. And I met a young lady up there. Her name was Jennifer. Well, in fact, it's still Jennifer today, all these years later. But we kind of connected. She was a pastor's daughter, never been married, had no children. As we were talking about at dinner, Jeannie, she had just gone through ovarian cancer 2 years before we met. And that still I didn't go through it with her, but in our book, I was reading her chapter today where she talks about walking down that long hallway to go through chemotherapy in this dank hallway at Vanderbilt Hospital. There's just old equipment on the sides, but she had to go all the way down that hall to go into the ward where she would be in the hospital for 3 or 4 days during her chemo treatments. And she learned, she said, we're going to make it through this. And she would decorate the walls every time she went in. And she had her top 10 list of the greatest benefits of being bald, which I can share with a few of you men tonight. But she put that on the wall so she could laugh about what she was going through. But she made it through. And here a couple of years later, we connected. She had never, like I said, never been married, no children. We knew there would be no children because of what she had gone through. And we just hit it off until one day her dad comes to me. after we had been seeing each other a few months. And Pastor Dan comes to me and he says, Kirk, we just love those children who weren't 7, 5, and 3 anymore. They were 16, 14, and 12. And he goes, we just love those children. They're like our grandchildren. He said, if we have to take you in the deal. So we were married in June of 2006, and I thought, wow, what a miracle. And we're a family of 5. And that's what we were going to be. We went on vacation 6 months after we were married in December of 2006, had a wonderful time. And then Jen comes to me in early 2007, and she says, Kirk, I called the doc. We need to do a pregnancy test. No, we don't. No, I'm 44. The youngest of our 3 is 13 years old. She's going to be out of the house in 5 years, which I found out later was not true. They don't. But we did a pregnancy test, and it was positive. And we found out Josh was on the way. Yeah, a miracle, right? Now that you've clapped, I'm going to give you the honest truth. I was not happy. This was a miracle. But I was like, I've done this. I've been a single parent 9 years. I'm ready to coast. You know, I was ready to coast. And I remember going down the road and getting this thought went through my head. You know, if she miscarries, it'd sure make life a lot easier. I don't know where those thoughts come from. I'm the pro-life guy. Well, I think I know where they come from. But I'm the pro-life guy. I've been everywhere from Fairbanks, Alaska to Port St. Lucie, Florida, talking about how children are a gift from the Lord. And yet this thought kind of wandered around in my head. But I think the Lord came to me. I think Jesus came to me and said, Kirk, let's not go down that road. This is going to be an adventure. You need to get excited. You know, the word repent in the New Testament is some Greek word, metanoia or something like that, which means to think differently, to change your mind. And that's all he was asking me to do. Think differently about this. Let's get excited. And I began to get excited too. And I was like, you know what? We're going to do this. And sure enough, Josh was born in August of 2007. He stopped breathing 6 times the night he was born. 4 times he figured it out on his own. Twice they had to revive him, but he's doing great today. He was at cross-country practice yesterday afternoon. He's doing fine. But they put him in the NICU for a few days. And isn't it interesting how God just says, I got you. I got you. I go into the NICU, and they told me it was, and this is a technical term, that the physician actually came in, the pediatrician came in and gave me this language. So if you're offended, then it's him. This is medical terminology. He said it was a brain fart. He's all right. But we got to put him in the NICU. And I said, okay. So he's in there dealing with his brain fart. And I go into the NICU one day, and the nurse looks at me and she says, Mr. Walden, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I work Praise the Help Ministries. And she goes, can I tell you a story? And I said, sure you can. And she said, many years ago, a young lady won the Miss Tennessee pageant. We're up in Nashville at this time. And this young lady was preparing to go to Atlantic City. Burt Parks, if you remember years ago, and Miss America pageant, there she is. Couldn't sing it as well as Tony, but he tried. But in the months leading up to the Miss America pageant, after she had won the Miss Tennessee pageant, she found out she was pregnant. I said, oh. And this young lady, this nurse, telling me this story. And she said she had a decision. She could end the pregnancy. It is legal. She could end the pregnancy and go on to Atlantic City and compete for the title she had dreamed of her entire life. Or she'd have to give up her crown, and in those days, she'd be giving it up in shame. I said, I got you. Okay, what'd she do? She said, I'll tell you. She said she went into the state director's office, placed her crown on the table, her desk or whatever it was, and said, this one goes to the first runner-up. I'm going to have this baby, and I'm going to marry the father. And I said, oh, that's a great story. And she said, you know why I tell it? And I said, I'm guessing. She said, that's my mom, and I'm the baby. And I said, goodness gracious. The Lord told me I had an adventure coming. And when Josh is in that ICU, there's a nurse telling me, there's a young lady, somebody stepped into her story, allowed her to take that risk and give up the chance at something she had dreamed of since she was a little girl, and I'm the result, and I'm going to take care of your little guy. So, what a story, God. Only He can write stuff like that. He keeps writing our stories. Josh, we took him to Christmas vacation down at Disney World, and when he was 16 months old, he remembers it well, I'm sure. Took our 4 children down there. He got back. A couple of months later, Jennifer comes to me and says, we need to do another pregnancy test. Found out Jake was on the way. It's a curious thing about Disney World and all that, but the Magic Kingdom, if you will. But each time we went there, we end up with those babies. And they're a blast and they're a gift. I don't know what I'd do without them. Jeannie was talking at the table. She said they keep you young. And I turned to Bill. I said, or you really feel old. You know, one or the other. But Jake was texting me tonight as I was about to come in here. Our neighbor across the street, Al. Al is a few years older than I am, and he gave Jake permission to call him by his first name. So this was an exciting moment in our family tonight. I don't know if I can call Al by his first name. Jake gets to. But children are a gift. And I'm thinking about what John was saying earlier, and it's talking about the vision that we have for options. A lot of people who walk into options and a lot of people who go online and Google the abortion pill don't yet realize their child is a gift. I get it. They're scared. They're nervous. They're worried. Relationships are broken. I don't know if this is a gift or a curse. And like John said, all they have to do is click a few buttons and put in a credit card, and they'll send those pills to your home. But the good news is that if she calls us, as John said, if she calls us within a few days, we can refer her to the Abortion Pill Reversal Network. She can make a choice of life. Progesterone can be prescribed, and we can see that child saved. And APR, Abortion Pill Reversal, is pretty new, but already we've got 7,000 documented cases of babies who have come into this world through abortion pill reversal. Isn't that amazing? And we are going to be walking through those pregnancies with these heroes who make a second choice for life. You know, it's interesting that those who oppose us and those who run these clinics in Minneapolis and elsewhere tell us they believe in choice. But you know what? They've tried to shut us down. In New York, the Attorney General has forbid pregnancy centers from talking about abortion pill reversal. A center I was in near in Brewster, New York, near White Plains, right outside of the city, sued her and won the right to be able to say we offer abortion pill reversal. That's what we've got to do these days. But so far in Wisconsin, we don't have to do that. We're going to be there when she picks up that phone. We're going to be there, and we're going to walk with her through this time. And hopefully they won't even go online and get those pills because they'll find us first. That's what we want. We can win back that culture, and I believe just like when I was 18 years old, which was 40 years ago, I still believe that the day will come when the last place closes their doors. The last place that offers this stuff will close their doors. And I believe one of the reasons is going to be because of abortion pill reversal. Because there are going to be moms and dads and little children who said, I got a second choice and I don't regret it. I am so thankful I got a second choice. And as that number grows, I think we're going to have a literal army of people who are touting the joys of life. And we're going to celebrate life. And I believe if the Lord tarries and we go to 80 years here, or maybe 50 years here, I could see us at year 50 at our Jubilee celebration talking about the fact that those places in Minneapolis have closed their doors because nobody wants them anymore. When we become the first choice, folks, and you know this, or you wouldn't be here tonight. You bought your tickets, you've been invited by friends, but you know this, that if we become the first choice, if it's us and not them, the second choice will disappear. We become the first choice. Nearly 90% of women who walk into a pregnancy help center in this country choose life. Of those thinking of ending a pregnancy, they see their child on ultrasound, which we offer, 86% choose life. We're working on a father's initiative. We're continuing to work on that. You know what? 83% of women who end pregnancies say, if only the dad had been involved, if only he had encouraged me, I would have chosen life. Folks, that's what we're working on here. That's what we're trying to do. And you're here, and that's why you're here. You could have been doing a lot of other things. What day is today? It's Tuesday, right? Yeah. You could have done something else on your Tuesday night. You could have been anywhere else. But you chose to get out in this crummy rain. Last time I was here is chamber weather. It's gorgeous. So I've seen how beautiful this place is when it's not raining. You could have done something else, but you drove through the rain, and you're going to drive back home, all because you wanted to support tonight, and I'm with you. Like, we're going to ask for the funds here in just a couple of seconds, but I'm going to tell you before we do that, I didn't come up here from Nashville to tell you, well, you need to. Me and Jen are going to too. When I ask you for 2 investments in this ministry, just know that Kirk and Jen are right here with you. I've got a card right here, and we're in this thing together. And our mission tonight is to raise, and I talked about 134 today, John, but our mission really is the $143,000 when I ran the numbers again. $143,000 in this room tonight, and you say, oh, there's no way. I want you to do me a favor. This means a lot to me. Would you stay right here for the next 5 or 6 minutes so we can walk through these cards? On your table is a big white envelope, and I'm going to ask someone at that table to grab that envelope. Thank you, Jeannie. And hand the inside envelopes to each person or each individual or a couple at the table. Would you do that for me? And would you stick with me and walk through this? Because when I say 143, it's not just a number we grabbed out of thin air. But I'm going to ask you to join Jennifer and myself. Like I said, she's not here tonight. She's finishing up a year with middle school, teaching middle school. And got a 17 and 15-year-old at home. But I'm going to ask you to walk with me through this card. I'm going to ask you, don't fill out anything right yet, okay? We'll just look at this if you would, because I want to share a couple of things with you. Number one, it says My Gift Tonight on top, and that's one of our 2 investments. One of the things we have to do if we're going to be the first choice is we got to meet them where they are. And where are they? Where's the well today where Jesus sat? It's a phone. Because more than 80% of women find us on their phones. We've got to be where they are. When they're Googling certain terms, we've got to be there. When they're in their high school, we need to do what we call geofencing so we can target an ad directly to them. So that if they're thinking about, if they say the word pregnancy to Siri, our name pops up. If pregnancy test or abortion pops up in her mind and she says it to Siri, our name pops up. That takes funding. You know that. It takes about $3,500 a month for us to be the first choice right here. And if we can be the first choice, the second choice disappears. That's about $42,000 a year. But that's one of the things we're looking for tonight. And John talked about abortion pill reversal. He said between $900 and $1,800. Let's split the difference. Those ultrasounds take about $1,500 to walk them all the way through. We give them to her for free. She's not going to find free ultrasound anywhere else, but she will here with us. And if we reach 20 women in the next year who needed reversal, that's about, and I got to do my math here, about $36,000. That's where your money's going. We're not just talking out of thin air here. That's where your money's going. John talked about post-abortion healing. There are people in this room who are struggling with this conversation tonight because you made a decision months or years ago that you're going, I wish I had. And you know what? There's healing available. And we're training people, about to train people so that we can offer that healing at Options. 30 to 40% of women in our churches and men in our churches have experienced abortion in one way or another. We need to reach them. To get that, all the training and everything, it's about $30,000. We need to ramp up staffing. There are certain times of year, like right before students go home for Thanksgiving at UW River Falls, right before they go home at the end of the year, even right after they get here, when we get a flood of clients. They need to get that STI testing out of the way before they go home. They need to do that pregnancy test before they go home. We're here. But to ramp up our staffing during those special times, it takes about $20,000. And then we need to do more training. You talked about for APR, John. That takes about $15,000. If you add it all up, it's $143,000. And I know I'm stretching everyone in this room tonight. I get it. I'm going to ask you to take some faith steps. I can't look at your checkbook. You don't know mine. But I will say this. There may be people in this room who can write that check for $42,000 for the outreach, $30,000 for abortion pill reversal. You may be able to write that check. There are others in this room saying, Kirk, we're living month to month. But we can do this. And I'm going to ask you, would you make a one-time investment in this ministry? You can do it tonight by check or by QR code. You can see you can do it online. You can do it by credit card. Any way you want to do it. And if you're like, you know what, I'll do it in a few weeks, there's a check box up there that says, under my gift tonight. It says, I'd like to make a one-time pledge of blank given within 90 days. That's what I'm going to do tonight. It's the easiest thing for me to do, and then I'll go online tomorrow or the next day, and I'll make my investment. But if every one of us, every individual, every couple said, I am going to stretch my faith a little bit and do something that makes me go, okay, God, I hope you've got my back, then we can be well on our way to $143,000. I said 2 investments. The second one is right under it. It says my monthly investment in options for Women River Falls. We have 76 individuals and families supporting us each month. Many of you are in this room and you're about to say, you know what, I'm going to continue to do it again. I'm going to do it by automatic transfer. You can write by check, whatever you want to do. But there's that blank, and this is the amount, and you're going to write in that amount again because you've done it before, and you're going to keep doing it. But that means there are people in this room, including me, who are not monthly supporters right now. Well, I'm going to tell you, John, me and Jen are number 77. 76 now, we're 77. And if everyone in this room who's not currently giving monthly said yes, we could go well over 100 monthly supporters tonight. All you need to do after we pray is write in that amount, and then you can say, okay, I'm going to do it by credit card, void a blank check, or you can just say, you can circle it, which means I'm going to send in a check each month. We still take those things. I don't know where they come from anymore, but we still do checks, and we can do that. But the easiest way to give is online. Easiest way to give is through electronic funds transfer. You see the information there. Let's do this. Oh, and there are some people in this room saying, I'm thinking about a gift of stock or property. I've had some appreciation in the last few weeks. I could just sell this stock. Don't sell it. Just check that box if you want to give a stock gift or a property gift, and we'll get in touch, and we can work it out to be tax advantageous for you. Every one of us can do a one-time gift. Every one of us can do a monthly gift. And there are some who might want to give a gift other than those suggested, which you'll see down there under the single gift options. Let's do this. Let's pray. Let's just ask God, what do you want us to give? I know each of us will say yes. And then we'll close in just a few minutes. You got a few minutes to fill this out. If you're writing a check, you can do that. Put it back in your larger white envelope and give it back to your table host. And in a few minutes, Chuck will be back up here to close us out. But first, let's pray. Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for 40 years of options. Thank you for Jan, Ann, and Martha who just started this thing with a phone call. We'll just call our home. We'll talk to you. Thank you for that vision they had that's led to who we are today. Thank you for the O'Malleys for walking us through all this time as our kind of retired their jerseys as board members, as honorary board members for life. Thank you for so many who have poured into this ministry And thank you. I thank you for each person in this room who's going to continue that tradition tonight. I pray that you show us what you want us to give for our one-time investment and for our monthly investment. And Father, I pray that each of us in this room, at whatever level we can, says yes. We know that a yes will take us where we need to go. We look to you, Father, to multiply the results. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, thank you. This is our time to fill out these cards. And as I said, Chuck will be up to close us out in just a couple of minutes.